Tonight, a KFDM News special report. What began as a domestic disturbance call ended with an officer coming into a woman's apartment using a taser on her, and she says knocking out a tooth. His body mic captured the sounds. KFDM has obtained that recording. Tonight, we investigate what happened from the woman's point of view. And we talk with police about domestic disturbance calls in general. They say there is a lot more to those calls than you might realize. KFDM's Huet has spent about a month looking into the case. She joins us live outside of the Beaumont Police Department to explain what she's learned. Lauren?
Kelly, Krystle Bob tells me she feels violated. Bob says officers came into her home without permission, used a taser on her, and she was charged with resisting arrest. Last week, the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office dismissed the case and dropped the charge against Bob. Now, police say officers have a duty to investigate when responding to a domestic disturbance or family violence call.
You got called out loud argument going on. Anybody with you?
Not anymore. I'm just trying to work out my issues with my boyfriend.
The view you're seeing is from a Beaumont police car dash cam. It was March 18th last year, about 7 in the morning. 2 Beaumont police officers responded to a domestic disturbance call at Krystle Bob's apartment on Concord in Beaumont. The audio you'll hear is from the officer's body microphone. The 2 officers asked to come inside.
You know, I just felt so comfortable without coming in my house when I did not invite you.
Well, we gotta make sure that everything's okay.
But I'm telling you.
Obviously, you've already told me there's been some kind of conflict between y'all.
I'm telling you that everything is fine, so I have to go to work in the morning. I'm trying to go back to sleep. I understand that.
Bob gave her name and twice provided her driver's license number. Officer Joshua Brett Donahoe then asked her to spell her first name.
Your party? No.
I can write it down.
No. You're gonna tell me.
K-R-Y is spelling.
K-R-Y-S-T.
You remember what it is. You're a policeman. You have very good memory. Do not put your hands on me. Get off of me. Get off of me. This is my shoulder. Serious? Get off of me. Get off of me.
You are here. Stay back.
Get off of me.
Stay there.
Get off of me. Get off. No, if he takes his hands off me, I will calm down. I don't want his hands on me. So you gonna take it?
They tasered me twice in my stomach, right here and right here. The police officer with the taser gun, in between tasering, lifted his taser gun and punched me in the mouth and broke my tooth. And they both threw me onto the floor.
Her tooth was broken in half.
You didn't have to do that. You just knocked my tooth.
I felt violated because I'm like, I just told you everything is fine in my home. You have no reason to even enter my home. I just told you I would like to get some rest because I have to go to work.
In Officer Donahoe's offense report, he states he attempted to arrest Bob for failure to identify.
There's 2 ways you can fail to ID, which is what he accused her of doing. One way is to be actually under arrest and refuse to give a name or give a false name. The other way is to be a witness to a case or be potentially a suspect who's being detained and giving a false name.
Ryan Gertz is Bob's attorney. He says under Texas law, if you're not under arrest and have not witnessed a crime, you have the right not to give your name.
In this situation, though, Krystle gave them her real name twice, spelled it.
Gertz says there's a larger issue here.
One of the more fundamental rights that we have and one of the most protected rights we have is your home.
Gertz maintains in this situation, the officer did not have the right to enter Bob's home without a warrant because there was no immediate danger.
It'd be something else if they were, on the scene and actually heard something of actual value. But an anonymous call from a neighbor from 3 hours before that says, well, somebody was having a domestic disturbance, didn't get you there on what they would say exigent circumstances.
He believes this case sets an alarming precedent.
If you won't give them your name lawfully, you won't give them your name or whatever, they just come into your house at that point. And the problem with that is it's a bypass seemingly for them for the warrant requirement. It's a bypass for requiring a warrant for an arrest, and it really sidesteps some fundamental constitutional guarantees that we have.
Beaumont Police Sergeant Rob Flores says he can't specifically talk about this case, but says officers have a duty to thoroughly investigate domestic disturbance calls.
If there's any information or evidence that that officer has that leads him or her to believe that there's a victim of family violence that has occurred or a potential victim of family violence, by law, we have to investigate that. If we walk away and someone's hurt, then not only do we have the legal liability for that, we have a moral liability to that.
Sergeant Flores says officers can enter your home if they feel family violence is occurring or has occurred. In the body mic recording, you can hear Donahoe speak to that issue.
You understand if there's any kind of physical injuries to you and there's any suspicious suspected family violence, that we have to take action on it?
Yes, even without a warrant at times, because you're looking at the protection of somebody with, who's a potential victim of family violence.
Bob says the officer used excessive force. Here's more of the audio recording she says backs up her point. The officer has used a taser on her, and according to Donahoe's report, he had his knee on her back.
As I said, if you let me go, I will stay still. And then you just knock my scoop out of my mouth.
It don't work like that now.
Sir, can you please get off of me? I'm not comfortable like this.
I'm sorry.
I'm clearly not going anywhere. You have me handcuffed.
What's your date of birth?
Bob says the police should have left when she asked them to leave and told them she was fine.
If I can't feel, protected in my home by the person who's supposed to be protecting me in my home, I didn't even want to stay there anymore.
These things do not happen in the convenience of a living room with hindsight, 2020. They happen in an instant. They happen very quickly, and an officer has to make a decision that could potentially save or cost a life.
In Officer Donahoe's report, he states that Bob resisted arrest and hit him in the torso. Bob denies hitting the officer. Again, last week, the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office dismissed the case and dropped the charge against Bob. If you'd like to listen to the full audio from the officer's body microphone, we'll be posting that later tonight to KFDM.com. Reporting live in Beaumont, Lauren Huet, KFDM 6 News.
Very compelling. Thank you, Lauren.